Hello, what's the introduction to psychology? Psychology is the science of behavior and mental process. This means that psychologists conduct experiments and use other scientific methods to understand better the action and thought of human and animal, from the activity of a single nerve cell to the working of memory and to the social conflict in a complex society. The World of Psychology: An Overview. In 1879, in Leipzig, Germany, Wilhelm Wundt established the first formal psychology laboratory. Wundt, a psychiatrist and psychologist, used the method of laboratory science, especially experiment in an effort to identify the basic elements of human consciousness. Over and so 115 years, psychologists expand the range of their research to encompass hundreds of other phenomena, from colorblindness and racial prejudice to severe depression and job satisfaction. As a result of this diversity, psychology today has numerous areas to specialization or subfields. Subfield of psychology. In March of 90 and 91, television news program aired videotapes showing four white police officers in Los Angeles kicking and severely beating Rodney King, an unarmed African American motorist whom they were trying to arrest. A year later, when an all-white jury in the official state trial found the officer not guilty of assault, they broadcast show part of Los Angeles exploding in riots. This Fillion's reflection of and reaction to prejudice against minorities in the United States provide but one example of the violence that is a distressing fact of public and private life in the most countries around the world. In home, children are abused and spouses are battered. In school, there are fights and even shooting. Streets are the scene of murder and rape and conflict between demonstrators and police. In some countries, rival military class that squads, tutor and kill political opponents, and there is an endless procession of words, large and small. What causes violence? Why are some people so much more violent than others? What can be done to prevent violence? Some psychologists have addressed this important question in their research. The particular aspect of violence they study illustrate the difference in the subject matter of psychology subfield. Experimental and cognitive psychology, for example, study such basic components of behavior and mental process as perfection, learning, memory, motivation, and emotion, as well as judgment, the decision-making, and problem-solving. Thus, their study of feelings might focus on the effect of high temperature of aggressiveness, or how the information people recall about other people might affect the probability of psychically attack them. biological psychology, who are also called psychologists, analyze how biology shapes behavior and mental process. The work has helped us understand, for example, how the brain controls physical movements, regulates eating, and receives information for the sense. With regards to feelings, they have looked at whether difference in hormones account for the fact that men tend to be more violent than women. They also study how drugs or brain tumor can create episodes of aggression in normal, peaceful people. While some psychologists seek laws that govern the behavior of people in general, personality psychologists focus on the characteristics that make each person unique, that they have identified. For example, the personality dimension, how as introversion, extraversion, and they study relationship between people, so scores on personality tests and their tendency to display violent, shy, bold, or fearful behavior. Social psychology study how people influence one another, especially in group. They have found that the presence and action of other affect a wide range of behavior, from individual athletic performance and jury Ver- verdicts to group problem-solving and mob violence. The research of clinical and counseling psychologists on violence is just one example of their interest in all forms of abnormal behavior. They also provide the right aid to troubled people. Behavior and mental process are always changing. Development psychology describes this change and tries to understand their cause and effect through the lifespan. They ask, for example, whether difference in the temperaments at birth or variation in parenting patterns might be tied to, say, difference in the dependency or aggressiveness in adulthood. Research in yet older subfields, such as community, industrial organizational, and quantitative psychology, has also shed light on various aspects of violence as well as on many other behavior and mental processes. Approaches to psychology. Suppose you were a psychologist trying to understand the origin of violence. Where would you look for answer? Do the origin lie in hormonal imbalance or brain disorder? It is source an Asian instinct, one necessary for survival, or do learn habit create violence? Each of these questions reflect a different approach to psychology, a different set of getting assumption, question, and method for understanding behavior and mental process. Some psychologists adopt only one approach, but many are electric, combining features of two or more approach because they believe that no one perspective can fully account for all aspects for every psychology phenomenon. Though they differ in the influence today, the approach that have been most significant throughout the history of psychology are the biological, evolutionary, psychology, dynamic, behavioral, humanistic, and cognitive approaches. The biologist approach the possibility that violent behavior might stem from a hormonal imbalance or brain disorder. Reflects the biological approach. Its roots can be trace back to Wilman Wundt. He studied biological process only indirectly by exploring, for example, how long it took people to react to a stimulus. Today, the biological approach focuses on biological process more directly, examining how specific psychological process shape behavior and mental process. As you might expect, the biological approach is prominent among biological psychologists who study the psychological effect of hormones, kinase, and electrical and chemical activity in the nervous system, especially the brain. However, psychologists in other subfields, such as cognitive or clinical psychology, may also take a biological approach. They try to understand how memory are stored in the brain. They look to patterns of psychological arousal associated with certain form of thought. They analyze the degree to which the tendency toward mental disorder is affected by the genes inherited from one parent. Will Wundt and other early psychologists such as Edward and Hermann Ebbinghaus use the term experimental psychologists to distinguish their laboratory work from the endeavor and philosopher and others who talk and speculate about consciousness, memory, and other psychological matter but perform no experiments.